Hello, everyone, and welcome to DollHouse. My name is Sinful, and I am your host for Beyond the NFT. Before I introduce our guest of the evening, I would like to take a moment to say that it is truly a blessing to be able to host this show for you all every Monday night, and I am truly grateful for everything this community does for me. Now, without further delay, I guess it's a good time to get into our awesome guest tonight. Our guest tonight is a professional communicator and community builder with more than a decade of experience working with global brands in social media marketing, product communications, and public relations. His background in cultural studies, with an emphasis on music, guides his current strategic direction in social metaverse marketing. I would like to introduce John Dominguez, but you all might know
Hello.
him as Dino. Hello, Dino. How are you, Dino?
Hello, I'm great. I heard my birth name and I got shivers.
Ooh.
I got to have to sit up straight. I don't know.
Yeah, for
You've
a
called
moment,
on me to come up to the board.
you kind of did have to sit up straight when I said, went with the stern voice, John Dominguez, and then,
Yeah, that's
like,
scary.
just
If
kidding,
you
everyone,
if
Dino.
if you would use my middle name, I might have run out of the room in fear. So thank you for not doing that.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Dino. It's definitely really, really exciting and an honor to have you like here in the flesh, online in the
Ah,
metaverse. Just a one-on-one between us two. It's nice. It's been a while since
yeah.
we've had this.
It has. Thank you very much for having me. It has been a while. The last time I was on, it was with Shelley, and those were the early days of the show. Well, yeah,
Yeah, we were still
is
babies back then, and to
we were.
think that like we were kind of talking a little earlier about the previous episode, which was like a band room episode, and even then we were looking for our baby pictures. So like
Yes,
we were extra baby. We were looking for our extra
yes.
baby pictures, I guess.
We were so innocent back then. We were unaffected by the trials and tribulations of DCO. Now we're hardened.
Now we're hardened on to pressing matters. So,
Yes.
before we begin, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. Well, I am originally from Orange County, California, born and raised in a town called La Habra. And that is relevant because of the year I was born. I was born in 1972. Yes, I am 50 years old. And so I came of age in the early 80s,
Wisdom.
which was with wisdom, yes, which really has guided my love of communities, because I came of age during a time when still was sort of like a very sort of a childlike way of growing up. Kind of like before the internet. Playing and sort of getting to know your friends and living in an environment that was away from a computer, and it sort of guided my thinking as I moved into digital marketing and PR and communications. Sort of how do you capture a an in real life way of thinking and living behind a screen, which has been the challenge that I've taken on for the last decade, which I absolutely love doing. And so, from cultural studies, which was called American Studies at Cal State Fullerton. Again, my first love is music, in terms of what I do outside of family. And so the cultural studies and music history go hand in hand, which brought me to public relations. I work for a global car brand, um, uh, sort of in a creative role, and a, um, a communications role. Uh, you wouldn't know that by listening to my opening. But then from there, Shelly and I started working together, and then we saw the opportunity to move into metaverse, and here we are. So There's more detail
We're
in there, but that's the that's the high level, as they say.
Man, I kind of, before I get into like the whole metaverse stuff, would it be okay if I ask like how did you and Shelly meet?
Sure, absolutely. So when I was working for the car maker, I went from this very interesting way that I got into PR and communications and marketing to some extent while I was there. But I originally came to the job through logistics. I worked for a logistics partner of the car company, and I had been writing, most of my adult life up to that point. I had started writing a book probably a decade before, and so, even though I was working in logistics, I always wanted to find a way to move into writing. And luckily, I had a great boss while I worked there who asked me to try some press release writing, and that led me into PR. From there, I saw an opportunity to pitch a social influencer program to I'll just say Kia Motors America, and Shelly at the time was a micro influencer, social media influencer, who I worked with and I got to know. And then when I left Kia, we started a relationship that became both partners in real life and partners in business. And we had always said somehow we're going to get back to community building, which is what we did together. And that's when the metaverse opened up for us.
Hmm. Before metaverse, was there kind of were there any like super successful projects that both you and Shelly both worked on and like kind of like to this day kind of still look back to?
Yeah, absolutely. Shelly worked as a core group of influencers that I worked with probably really during the last year that I was there, that I was at Kia, and so she helped tremendously in building standalone events. So there were the events the car companies always put on, auto shows, car launches, things like that. From the social media side, I was tasked with putting together standalone trips, standalone events that lean more towards a lifestyle voice and also organic content, less messaging, less and more of how do we get influencers to tell a story while they're on the ground. So we provided the vehicle, we provided the location, we have the influencers build a story. So Shelley worked in that capacity, went on several programs, auto shows all around the country, and then helped with a program that I had put on for three years, which was a 50 influencer program in San Diego. That was a brand immersion event. We bring out the whole lineup of vehicles. We we have a drive route. We have activities going on, and then we finish it all off at the end of the program with live karaoke, live band karaoke. So it was a whole program because one of the core pillars of Kia was music, or is music. So Shelly helped put that program together with a few other influencers, and we're incredibly proud of that. I mean, for only having 50 influencers on the ground through community building, through messaging, there were comments that it looked like we had hundreds of influencers at that event, and that was down to the strategic partnership that I had with the influencers who were there.
Holy crap. So,
Yeah, you can find it.
out of this, I have one key takeaway. Shelly Van is a boss. Dino
She
is a
is.
boss. And if anyone is wondering who we're speaking about, it would be this pretty blonde avatar right behind my ears. Shelly Van of the True Band Room, but I'm sure most of you already know her. Maybe one day in the future, I'll have a one-on-one with Shelly here and get the other end of the details.
Yes,
So,
yes.
okay, so now I'm gonna kind of go maybe even a little further back here to kind of you had mentioned that you were just coming into marketing like at a time when the internet was just coming into existence. Um, could you speak on kind of like internet version 1 compared to like internet version 3 here, like in the early days, like you know, a lot of people always like to say like early days of internet was full of scammers, kind of,
Sure.
and then kind of like we seem to be getting that same reputation here in Web 3. It seems like, that's what everyone wants to say. So could you speak a little bit on that? Does it kind of like truly feel like the early ages of the internet all over again? What can you say on it?
To some extent it does. So it wasn't really marketing at the time, but it was absolutely, I mean, for me, the way that I thought about it, it was very much about connecting with communities. Now, before that, just right before I was introduced to sort of mass internet, like, we're talking about what, 90, 94, 95, maybe even a little bit before that. And I'll explain why a little bit before that. But I went to a lot of concerts, sort of between 1988 and 1992, 1993, actually probably going like into 1998. But those shows were very much community oriented. Now remember, this is before cell phones, and this is before posting on the internet. The people were posting on the internet. So you really did gravitate towards a community. If you were going to go to a small club show, it's likely because everybody there found out some sort of way, whether it was through, through Tower Records and ads, or it was through just a friend, and then you meet up, and then you go to the show. So when I was introduced to the internet, the first thing I was introduced to were forums, and these were like DOS-based forums, where you were just chatting with people. And this was before America Online. This was before any of those chat services, and certainly before any social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram. So the the likenesses or the parallels that I see that are going on now really are in the community building aspect of it. So you're talking about the birth of a platform where potentially you're talking about marketing, where potentially you're talking about brand interaction, but at the heart of it, you're talking about a group of like-minded people in some respect, but sort of getting to know each other, becoming a community, becoming a family, virtually. I think what's different here is that you truly are talking about a global group who's getting together, even much more than in the early days of the internet. So the community building aspects are certainly very, very familiar. Talking in chat, getting to know people. It's very similar, and in fact, it probably goes a little bit back to those early days of the internet, where maybe we got a little off. What's the word I'm looking for? We moved away from the community aspect for a while, and it became very sort of selfish. It became, for a while, it was much more about just getting out your own content, and hopefully people were seeing it and they were reacting to you, and there wasn't a lot of interaction.
Would you
But I
say
think,
would you say that would be when social media came into like existence?
yeah, yeah, when it became static posts,
Hmm.
when it was all about a static post, that's really when things started to change. So Facebook really is when things started to change,
Yeah, we're
because
not blaming MySpace here. MySpace was good.
MySpace was great
I
because
love
it
MySpace.
really was. I mean, if you think about building your own parcel, or your own build on a parcel, in
Hmm.
Decentraland, MySpace was like that. You would put photos of your favorite artists, of your favorite musicians. You'd have links to them. You would have songs that played over it. So as soon as somebody came to your page,
Hmm.
they'd hear a song. So
Or a
yeah,
video.
MySpace, or video, exactly. Yeah. And I remember when, God, what video service was it? Like Daily Motion, or one of those early pre-YouTube sites had integration with MySpace, and it was such a amazing thing because you could find like an old like punk rock video, and your friends would show up and be like, "Oh my God."
Steve Psycho is saying, "Who didn't love MySpace?" I feel like if MySpace did not get bought out by Facebook, like I feel like eventually there would have been 3D worlds, like coded in to your MySpace page. Who knows?
Uh, God, I had totally forgot that my pages still existed for a very long time, and I was able to tap back into it, and it was slightly depressing because they were very like young pictures of me, but it's yeah, it was a great space, and I think that was a stronger community building effort than what we saw later, which again became very solo
Corporate.
oriented. Yeah, exactly. How do I get the most attention from people versus like sort of collective communal conversation.
Okay, so totally. So yeah, in some ways, to summarize your answer, it's like there are some aspects in Web3 that kind of relate to the early days of the internet. So I guess slightly in continuation, like, would you think like social media would kill Web3 at this point? Like, you know how kind of we had like early internet, then and there was this sense of community, it was thriving, and then all of a sudden we went into social media. uh do you think like the cycle will repeat itself in a way?
I think we're going to get stronger in the direction that we're going, which is away from the static post social media way of thinking and more into a metaverse style. Um, And the reason is because also what happens in cycles is just popular culture in general and how we interact in popular culture or with popular culture. And I'd say, like quite honestly, and I'm not trying to sound silly here. I think that a lot of retro culture, a lot of like 80s culture in contemporary popular culture like Stranger Things. I think that has helped fuel things like metaverse interaction because while there is this longing, this yearning, and especially in a post-COVID world, while there's this longing, this yearning to be connected with people, the metaverse does provide that opportunity. And so the direction that we're going in right now, I think, gonna is only gonna get stronger. And I think that if it can be captured correctly, if the community aspect of it can be strengthened upon, um, it'll get it'll get better and more global. And I think that's something that's incredibly important, especially with things like the press under attack
Mhm.
in other countries, including this country at certain times. I think that having platforms where people have the freedom to express opinion in a healthy way, in a constructive way, I think that it's an extension of the press at the same time that it's an extension of a social media platform and an extension of a conversation, which I think we all need, like honest conversation.
Yes, most definitely. And kind of the need to spread this conversation far and wide throughout the space, of course. Like it needs to echo and not kind of just die out. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of make a comment here. CK, I have joined the fairy war again. There's still no peace in fairyland. I remember last week, we were wondering if there were ever will be peace. Not right
Oh
now.
dear.
I do still think that the addition of lasers will do us wonders. Um, and yeah, to kind of like just get into the metaverse side of the interview, I just want to kind of say hello to anyone that has come in while we were doing this introduction portion of the show. We are interviewing Dino of the True Band Room, of the Songbird Collectives, of the Metaverse and Decentraland and everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
just hope you enjoy the show. So let's get into Web3, Dino. How did Dino get into Web3? What were the first token spot? What was the first Twitter space? What can you tell us about this?
Sure. Yeah. So, but going back just a little bit before that, so
Okay.
so Songbird Collective was born out of a group of influencers that I worked with, and it started as kind of just a think tank. It was like, how do we continue this after I left Kia? How do we uh, look for brands that are interested in a collective voice in social media versus a one-off engagement. So we kind of kept going in that direction. I continued conversations, and during that time, so this was middle of lockdown, I was having a conversation with someone that his name is Joe Miragliata. And if you go to the Songbird Collective, you can find him there. He has a site called Joe's Daily. And he does men's lifestyle and travel. And so if you go, you're looking at it right here. So the collective at the top, and if you scroll down, the founding collective. So that's Africa Miranda, and a little bit more. Let's see.
Oh,
Or Joe.
sure, Joe.
That's
Yeah, right here.
yeah. That's so that's Joe. So Joe had talked to me about crypto, and then he bought a mutant ape, and it was during that time that I started to have more and more conversations with him about what was going on. And then from there, Shelly really dove into NFTs, and NFTs brought her to POAPs before we even got into the metaverse. And we were excited about the possibilities with attendance tokens. That's what really drew us in. Is like, how can you really capture the utility of POAPs in Web 2 scenarios like events, and well, yeah, like events. And so from there, a couple of people that she was talking to. Who is the person who is on YouTube that we watched a lot of? That really got us into NFTs. Oh my god, we actually had a conversation with him. It was a great conversation.
Hustle Millennial.
Hustle Millennial. I don't know how many people out there know Hustle Millennial, but he got us into NFTs. And then from there, Shelly, while I was out with my son, Shelly went into Decentraland. Now, this would have been around July of 2021. And I came back to the hotel room with my son, and she looked like a crazed animal. She had been, her computer was making ungodly noises, and I think it was on the verge of blowing up. And she had discovered Decentraland. And it was a couple of weeks later, I think, that I ventured in, and we actually the first real big event we went to was the Metaverse Music Festival in 2021,
Let's go.
with Spotty Wi-Fi. And so that is where we really got our first POAPs and really dove into Decentraland, and we really haven't left since. We've been
That music festival, that 2021 music festival, has something special about it that just won't let people leave.
It does, it does. It was it was an interesting line. It was an interesting lineup of artists too, and I mean, you could feel the how are we going to market this? How are we going to really, embed our music culture in the metaverse? I think that was Paris Hilton, and obviously Spotty and Deadmau5. Yeah, so it was interesting. And then I remember all the little like offshoot clubs too.
Hmm.
There was like a jazz club that we went into, and we got POAPs there, and we saw some people there. But it was also tough because I think our computers lasted maybe like 10 minutes at a time, and then they'd crash, and then we'd have to go back in, and then 10 minutes and then crash again. But yeah, it was a wonderful experience. And then for somebody like me and Shelly, coming from a music fan background, our minds just started spinning with the possibilities, which is really where the looking back, I think that the true band room ideas were probably born out of that time, even though the band room hadn't happened yet. And I guess we'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah.
And I guess if I may ask, like, could you share some of these ideas, like kind of these yeah, these thoughts that ran through both of you on like the possibilities?
Yeah, I mean, this was during shutdown, so we had been trying to find something, anything that would replace in real life shows.
Mm-hmm.
And by no means am I saying that now we've arrived at a place where in real life shows don't matter. It was more of a stopgap, sort of an emotional stopgap. Like, how do I stop feeling so horrible that I can't go to the small clubs that I love anymore? And it was really that. It was how do you continue the culture of fandom of music somewhere outside of in real life venues. But to be honest with you, I think this was a conversation that a lot of us had had
Mm-hmm.
after cell phones, after social media, because we weren't seeing the same type of environment that we did in the old days. But it was something that we're always trying to capture. And I mean, really, it could be argued that some of these metaverse shows are more like earlier, before social media, before cell phones, that there's more of that now in the metaverse than there is with the in real life shows. Because the in real life shows now, they seem to just be an opportunity to capture video to post later. There's not a lot of interaction with people around you, and there used to be, in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I would you say that kind of the lockdowns allowed kind of like some leeway for metaverse shows to, break into the scene, the entertainment scene, and then kind of now as like the world has been like, opening back up and people are going back to work, kind of metaverse shows are kind of coexist with the real life shows when before it wasn't even a thought.
Yeah, and I think what's done that is the opportunity to engage with a global audience, because that's something that I don't think a lot of us could
True.
have predicted, although we probably should have predicted this. But so when artists didn't have a place to play, there was the opportunity with the metaverse. I think Ash Orphan was the first person to play in the true band room, and you could really see the effect that not playing live had on somebody like Ash and Nick Unicorn from the True project.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the project itself was born out of that as well. Nick's brother is a professional musician, and he lost his job, his livelihood during lockdown, and so the opportunity to play in front of an audience while the clubs were shut down, certainly the artists who sort of were receptive and open to that idea, I think have sort of thrived in this metaverse environment since then, and opened up a door for a lot of other artists, or a lot more artists to walk through. But the global audience opportunity is just amazing, because it's not just,
Mm-hmm.
for sorry, I'm just going to be kind of long-winded, but I'll make it as short as possible. But like, but for an independent artist, you're talking about local shows. You're not even talking about national audience. You're not even talking about an audience in the United States, if that's where you're based. And so the opportunity for an independent artist to be in front of a global audience is incredible, and to take control of their own music is also incredible.
As well as like just be able to interact with someone that just walks in the room, because you never know like how far a like, hey, welcome so and so, I just saw you walk through the door, thank you for being here, like can mean to someone.
Yeah, and there are some artists in this space who got that, who understood that element of Decentraland, especially Decentraland. You could generalize and say metaverse, but I think Decentraland has really captured that interaction. But there are artists who are exceptional in that. Stony, who I see out there, um, Ash Orphan, Jack Frost, people like that, Mr. Swee, who absolutely understand the importance of interacting with an audience, which is why it doesn't surprise me that DJs have thrived on this platform because they already understood what it meant
Eh,
to interact with a large audience.
I would like to add someone to that list, of course. Crossover Carissa. She
Absolutely.
understood the assignment from day one, though. It's like she's been in the metaverse for 10 years now.
Yes, yeah, she has. She is incredible. Oh my God. I know she's already doing collaborations with people. Oh my God. It's
Oh,
amazing. Oh,
I heard something, and she's like, "Don't tell anyone, but I'm gonna show you something, but don't tell anyone." And here I am telling everyone, but don't. I'm not gonna say any names. So
no, 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 no. We were vague. We were vague.
yes,
We didn't give away too much here. Um,
exactly.
oh, and I don't want to leave out Gucci Toe. Like Gucci Toe is incredible, man. Gucci is like, he's one of the first people that we came across with Rustan, and man, Gucci is like one of the warmest, just nicest people in the space. Like, if you want to root, there's like somebody that you always want to root for. He's just a great community builder. I love Gucci.
So I guess like we kind of did get into a little bit of true band room talk. So could you tell us what true band room is, and also I guess part two to that question, how did you and Shelly meet Nick? Unicorn,
So,
sorry.
yeah, it's very strange. I mean, my story of getting into marketing is strange enough. Shelley's story of working with Nick is even crazier, or even more unlikely. So during lockdown, Shelley was making keychains. She was making other things too, but she was selling items on Etsy. And Nick, or not Nick, but Florian, the other co-founder of the group, came across her bio on Etsy where she mentioned being a former marketer, and also I think she mentioned something in there about NFTs or metaverse. And so he put the two of them together. They were planning on releasing the True project, uh, and so they were looking for a marketer. And so they contacted her, and we got on the phone with them, I think within a day, to talk about what they wanted to do. And so initially it was kind of traditional digital marketing for an NFT project. But very, very quickly after launch of the project, the True Band Room was supposed to be part of the roadmap. And as soon as we did one show with Ash Orphan, I think all of us kind of looked at each other and said, "Oh my God, there's something so much bigger going on here than an NFT project. There is a community of musicians that potentially could develop from this. There's a community asking for music. Like, how can we capture this now?" And to their credit, Nick and Florian, built out more with Judas, built out the True Band Room to open the gates to independent artists. So where before it was going to be a place where true owners could hang out, like a true kind of like band rehearsal space, it quickly became uh, a concert venue.
And I mean, it's truly fascinating how the first performance was the one where you just like sit down and you're like, holy shit, there's something here. There's something.
uh,
I guess how did you two get in contact with Ash? Since he is your first metaverse performer. At that time, like what you were going to do was like kind of like a pie in the sky idea. It's like we think it might work, we think it might not work, but want to try it, Ash?
Ash found the project, and I'm looking at Shelley because I want to make sure that I remember this correctly. I think Ash found Nick, right? Yeah. Ash found Nick, and then they had conversations. And at some point, Nick told us, "Hey, let's do the first show, and let's get this guy he was active in the Discord at the time, and so we got him on the stage." But that's how it happened. I think he was looking for a music community um, in the metaverse, and looking for an opportunity there, and came across us. So the acceleration of the launch of the band room is all really down to Ash. He really like got that moving because he wanted a place to play, and after that happened, there was just no stopping.
Ash is the proof of concept.
He is very much so. Um, uh, Sometimes I get emotional when I think about Ash because he he is such a wonderful. He epitomizes what is possible with the music space. I mean, he was a touring musician. He still is a touring musician. In fact, he just did a show in L.A.
Let's
and I
go.
think he's back in Ireland now. But through just grinding it out with live shows, interacting with an audience, just being himself, just giving off that energy that you can give off through a metaverse show, really built um, something for himself that gives back to the people who take part in his show. I mean, there's more than a few people who have said that Ash is like a he's like a cleansing experience. He's like a weekend in the desert. You go into an Ash show and you come out having exercised your demons and feeling like a new person. So he's he's an exceptional musician.
I mean, I love the background. I like the ambient, like the ambience he's created for the stream. The fire in the middle of the band room. Sometimes I wondered if that was like due to like just instruments on fire and Ash being like, let's burn it all down to the ground. Just
It's probably a little bit of both.
or
Um,
that fire is created from like, the burning of a marijuana field or
I think it's the I'm gonna sound so silly, but like it's the sort of like the internal fire that I think he creates with the show. I mean, I would like to think that that dance, that sort of mosh dance around fire was born. Like the metaverse version of it was born during an Ash show, and really born during what Christmas was it? Was it Christmas of 2021? Oh my God, Shelly and I were like we were in tears, and not from laughing. We were in tears like emotionally because there was a Christmas performance or a holiday performance during that period, and the place was packed, and people were just going around that fire, and it was quite emotional. Like I wish I don't know how many people in the audience were there for that. I think there were a lot of people that I can think of, but man, if you remember that, we have video of it, so we should post it. But it was a beautiful moment.
Of course, that's when a lot of us drank the Kool-Aid. I mean, did I say that out loud? Uh, so, I guess then, through all this, through True Band Room, what is your role within the team, the band room?
Yeah, yeah. There's always been like a little bit of confusion, and people have asked me that. So okay, so Shelly and I work together. I work in a strategic capacity with Shelly, and then also I help together